Welcome back. Welcome back to Holistic Lifestyle Medicine. My name is Aman, and today is the 23rd of February, I think. Somewhere around the early 23rd or 24th or 25th, maybe 21st. I can't be sure, but it's in the 20s, early 20s. I could go and check, but I don't have my phone near me. A few days ago, precisely on the 14th of February, I noticed early in the morning, I usually wake up as soon as light hits, before sunrise. As soon as there is light, the birds start singing like crazy and I cannot sleep after that. So I might still keep lying in bed for a while, but I'm awake. And of course, it's summer in the southern hemisphere. And for so many months now, I was used to waking up at about 5:15, 5:30 a.m. because that's when the first bit of light would hit and the birds would go nuts. Around, I think it was the 14th of February, that I woke up because the body clock was so used to waking up at that time. But I noticed that the birds were not singing yet, and it was quite dark outside. And it occurred to me that something had shifted. Daylight and sunrise was getting a little bit later. And the birds obviously weren't singing because the light hadn't yet hit, but my clock had woken me up at my usual time. Sure enough, that day and the next couple of days, I felt a chill in the morning, I felt a chill in the evening, the autumn chill. And I thought, it's only the 14th of February. I thought autumn was 1st of March. And of course, when we go by Gregorian calendars, everything is divided into 3-month blocks, and 1st of December is summer, 1st of March is autumn, 1st of June is winter. And I would have never, years ago, noticed such subtle shifts in daylight hours, such changes in bird song, changes in light. And the reason I started this video with this story is that the more I become intimate with the cycles of life, the cycles of nature, the more I see the contrast between my previous life, when I had no awareness. Forget about appreciation. Appreciation comes in firstly when there's awareness. I had no awareness of what was going on in the environment around me, and everything was very mental and everything was very organized in my mind through knowledge and information rather than direct intimate experience with life. And so the contrast is blowing my mind, really. Like I'm amazed at how much of life I have missed for decades. And in the last 5 years, I have, with my family, moved to land, to a rural town. I'm living on land. I'm growing fruits and vegetables. I'm working with my hands in soil, and I am coming into more and more of a rhythm and connection with everything around me, because I am part of all of this. And it is becoming clearer and clearer to me that this is the missing link in our healing. And this connection with the rhythms and cycles of life. And this is what inspired me to make this video today. And the title came through perfectly. The title of this video is the cyclical nature of life versus the myth of linear progression. So in the hyper-consumerist, capitalist economic model, Western model, which has permeated into the East very well now. I don't think there's maybe Bhutan, that's a country that is still holding on to its ancient ways of living. It's modernizing, but with very sustainably. But pretty much pick any Eastern country and the so-called development model is the globalist model. In that model, there is this myth. I call it a myth because this myth has been fully blown apart for me. It's been fully dissolved for me. The myth is that a life is meant to, as a human being, we're meant to kind of go up like this in a graph. It's like a linear progression, and we start off as children, and certain 16, 17, 18 years of our lives is meant to be like acquiring information and knowledge and programming our brain, and then we're meant to be productive till about 65, and from about 18 to about 65 we're meant to kind of go, as I said, in this graph up in terms of the money that we earn, the status, what we acquire, what we build, the wealth, possessions, in terms of the things we do, the output we create, the qualifications, the diplomas, degrees, etc. that we acquire. There is this paradigm, there is this consensual reality that progress is this line upwards. And then we're allowed at about 65 for that line to start coming down, and then we die. And the personal linear progression graph mirrors the graph, the model of so-called economic development, in terms of the country's GDP, in terms of, you pick up any big business, in terms of their forecast, their revenue growth. Everything is kind of going up like this in the graph. It's meant to, but life doesn't fit into human-made models. And there are big crashes, big disruptions at the macro, global, institutional level, as well as at the micro, human level. Nothing ever moves like this up and then into oblivion and death. So the point of this video was that to bust this myth first of linear progression, and to bring us into an appreciation of the cyclical nature of life. And because we're part of life, the cycles are cycles. And when we start to shift out of the myth of the linear progression into the cyclical nature of life, so rather than a graph up like this, if we can move into a circle, into a cycle, I feel like that's the key to healing, the key to coming to ease, coming to peace within ourselves, allowing this system to rest, allowing this system to come back to its natural state. Because that linear progression model has really placed so much burden, so much demand on this system wasn't built for the straight line up. This system, like all systems in the cosmos, is built for the cyclical model of life. So within a month, we'll have our cycles. It's very clear in a woman's biology, the cycle through her menstruation. Men can also notice cycles. They have cycles. And so within the month, I have noticed that my cycle is very clear. Premenstrual is my autumn. the menstrual period is my winter. It's to rest. It's to completely disconnect from productivity, from noise, from hyperconnection, from all of that. And then post my period, I'm in a period of spring, and new creativity and fresh impulses start to arrive into my body, into my mind, into my vessel. So that's at the monthly level. At the yearly level, also, when I start to surrender to the seasons and start to live in accordance with the seasons and slow down in the winter to some extent, go inwards, allow this vessel to have its period of dormancy, disconnect from the myth of progression, progress, productivity, output. Allow for those 3 months of winter to not be productive, to not have output, to just go inwards. Allow the dormancy, allow the seeds that are in there to get ready to sprout in spring, and then, create in summer. So when I start to live in devotion to these cycles, in surrender to these cycles, I notice that I am so much more at ease, so much more at peace. So that's the yearly cycle. And then if I go zoom out even more and I look at my life, there are more macro cycles. So I have now started to see, when I look back, that there are some years of expansion, great realizations, great insights, which translate into some creativity, some form, some expression. And then there are periods when, I cannot do that. There are periods of what normally might be called the dark night of the soul, or there are periods of going inward, the system contracting, because it cannot support infinite expansion. Contraction will come as a result of expansion. And so I have yearly, not yearly, but I'll have cycles, and I don't yet have a rhythm for it. I don't have a number for it. It's not like 5-yearly cycle or 10-yearly cycle, but I am now starting to notice that I have macro cycles as well that I go through. And if we look around ourselves, everything is cyclical. And growing food, farming has hit that point home like nothing else. I plant seeds, they stay dormant in the soil, then they sprout, then they become a full plant, then they give fruit, then the plant starts withering, and then it dies. And this repeats, and this repeats, And yeah, I feel like coming into this intimate connection, into this intimate resonance of the cyclical nature of life, and then surrendering to it, becoming devotional to it, could bring our mass collective, our mass humanity back from the brink of madness that has gripped the mass collective. In the linear progression model, in the linear path, linear upwards graph model, there is no place for rest. There is no allowance for deep rest, for deep healing, for dormancy, for darkness, for that, our culture, our popular, hyper-productive, output-oriented culture does not have space for depression, does not have space for breaking down. But we have to. It's the cycle of life. We have to have our deaths and our rebirths, our deaths and then our rebirths, because we are no separate than all other forms of life that is having its death and rebirth, its death and rebirth. And so it is my deep desire that all human beings could start to come into connection with the cyclical nature of life, with their own life cycles, with the cycles of life around them, and start to notice that the entire planet, the entire Mother Earth, beats to a rhythm, a rhythmic cycle. And once we all start to return to that, I mean, it's a remembering. This is not new mental information or new mental knowledge that we need to absorb or learn from a book or from a course. It is in our DNA. It is in our cellular structure. It is just remembering it again so that we can beat to that rhythm. And once we all start to go through life through that rhythmic cycle, we can all start to really, really, really ease. And I believe I see around me, we all need to ease. Like, we all need to slow down. We all need to rest. We haven't had deep, nourishing rest for thousands of years, it feels. And so through my channel here, through my little videos here, it is my humble attempt to bring some of my own direct experience, some of my own direct learnings through my own healing journey to you, so that you can feel validated, because I'm sure many of you deep inside are feeling this longing, this desire to rest, to slow down, to put tools down, to have your cycles, to have the time to grieve, to have the time to heal. But you're also plugged into the mass reality. You're also plugged into the conditioning. And so it's my humble attempt through this video to say that it's okay. It's okay to not be productive. It's okay to not be constantly producing an output. It's okay if you want to put a blanket over yourself and go into dormancy for a period, so that you can refresh, so that you can regenerate, so that you can come up again as new life, bringing new inspiration, bringing new fruit into the cosmos. Thank you.